Residential Center. We're located over in Bristol in the old Valleydale building, and we provide support groups both day and night. We're in the Sullivan County Jail, Bristol Jail, Avenue Jail. We conduct street outreaches and so forth, and of course, am a representative of the Appalachian Teen Challenge with Brother Jim Nichols and so forth. And matter of fact, we were so blessed to take a young man last Thursday into Teen Challenge. But I brought some individuals with us today that's going to share the testimony, to share what God has did in their lives.
Morning. So I spent about 30-something years serving myself, and it led me to a path where I spent 5 years in prison. I met Mark prior to going to prison. I'd given my heart to Jesus, and about 6.5 years ago, and I just prayed for him to put me with people that I'd be able to make a difference. Like, I felt like I had a story to tell. I just needed some brothers to show me the way. So I met Mark I went to a church one day, and he happened to be a member of that church, and it's just kind of been a blessing of God. For the 30-something years I served myself, all I had to show for it was pain, loss, addiction, really nothing. I've been out of prison now about 1.5 years, and the 1 year and 1 week out, the Lord blessed me with a $95,000 loan to buy a house. He's blessed me with a car. He's used me in the ministry. Basically just used me to further his kingdom. And I'm thankful for that. We see lives changed every day through the jails, through Tri-Cities Recovery, through our outreaches. Yesterday, I think I've seen like 20 people saved. And it's just... The word says that we overcome by the power of the blood and the power of the testimony. And so I know sometimes people have to walk through really tough times so that they can come out with that tough testimony that's going to change lives. And I'm just thankful that God has used me in such a way. Thank you.
I rode by here when I got out, and I looked at y'all's sign, and it said, "Preaching, John Matney." I said, them people cannot be that bad. I love John, I really do. He's a character, he really is. Him and his brother and his daddy, and my sister Cheryl died, and she knows the preacher, and I didn't know that. I kind of knew it, but I was explaining to her where I was going, and she said, I think it's David's his name. And I said, over there at that church over there, you know, where them Pentecostal people go. And she said, Sonny, that's David's church. Please don't go up there and say that. So I went ahead and throw that at you anyway. My name is Sonny. I don't understand it. I never cried when I was a criminal. And now that's all I do. I sit right there and I said, God, please don't let me cry. I am a grown man. And the first thing I do is get up here and start crying. I don't understand. It looks like to me you ought to cry when you're a criminal. Be happy when you say it. Anyway, I'm sorry. My name is Sonny. I was a drug addict for 40 years. I was a drug addict. My sister over here, Cheryl, died. Y'all know her. And let me tell you something. If you're praying for anybody, she prayed for me from the time she was 16 till she was 61, and it took that long. But God finally saved me in a prison cell. I've spent 10 years of my life in prison. I met Mark and them in jail, and I spent 3 years there. And you know, when Mark and them would come into the class after they put me in drug class, we won't go through all this. I was thrown in prison when I was 17 years old. I was actually raised by convicts, if you're the one the truth about it. And the only church I had was one time when I was about 12 years old, 13, I was pretty rough at 13. And they took me inside, a friend of mine said, come on, go to church with us. And they took me inside a Catholic church. And the guy put me in a little box. And then he opened the window. And I said, you better open that door. I said, what you talking about? I said, I don't know you and I don't want to know you. Open the door. He said, the door's open. I said, oh, okay, thank you. But anyway, that's the only church I ever had. And so I got thrown in prison. I was raised by, I was in Brushy Mountain State Prison, maximum security, worst prison, I think third worst prison in the United States. And James Earl Ray was there and all them, and I knew all of them. I knew gangs, I knew everybody. And I boxed in there. And I could have been the middleweight, I could have been a contender for the middleweight championship of the world, but John Tate, which is the heavyweight champion of the world, and his coach came in there, and they were training me, and they called me high, and that was it. So drugs has really just paralyzed me for all my life until I was in jail, and even then, they let me out of the trustee, and I had more drugs dropped off. But anyway, I met Mark, Charlie, Dave, a couple more, and they went to talking about Jesus and all that. Now, mind you, I've heard my sister talk this before, and I told her, I said, man, I tried that one time when I was in that little booth. And she said, that's not church. I said, well, I was in a little booth on all that. she said, Sonny, please don't go over and tell people that. Anyway, Martha and them would come in and they would talk to me and talk, and he had living free, and I didn't find living free. Jesus found me. Amen. Okay, after all my life, see how I go crying? After all my life as a drug addict, it took people to come in and tell me about Jesus. And I said, here we go again. I'm like, these people are out of their minds. And one night, I was sitting there by myself. The whole cell was asleep. And I really didn't know why they were asleep. They never slept before. And I was sitting at the table. I think I was doing something. He give me, Mark give me, or somebody give me, or something. Anyway, I was sitting there and I was looking at it. And it's out of clear blue sky. And I'm going to cry, but that's okay. Jesus said, right then and there, you served the devil long enough. It's time you serve me. And I didn't know what to do. I really didn't. I had nobody. I had a bunch of convicts in there, but they was all asleep. Well, I was going to wake them up. And I didn't know what to do, so I just bowed my head. And I knew who God was, I knew who Jesus was. And I said, Lord, I'm sorry. I have blew it. All my life, I have been a drug addict. I raised my family as a drug addict. They had anything they wanted. I was a truck driver for 30 years after I got out of prison. And we done good, and I raised them, but still I didn't know God. And I'm trying to hide my drug abuse behind that. But anyway, that night I said, Lord, I'm sorry for what I've done. Please help me, because I cannot do this alone. So, I've been clean for 25 months. I go to his. I need to quit. Y'all gonna have to eat or something. And I teach a class at Marks, and we got Living Free over here. That me and my buddy Charlie started over here in Meadowview, and if you know anybody's a drug addict, send them to me, okay? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vicki Booker. I was raised in a little church like this most of my life, And but I rebelled against God. I rebelled against my family, and I started smoking marijuana at a young age. And it led to me doing Percocets. It led to me doing Lortabs, and I started snorting them. Then I got introduced to Oxycontin. I was snorting them. I always said I wouldn't do the needle, but when I was introduced to it, the first shot I did, I fell in love. After that, I started shooting morphine. I started shooting heroin. Coming off the heroin, the withdrawals were so bad, if I had a gun, I would have shot myself. But I started going to the methadone clinic for 3.5 years. I was diagnosed with hepatitis C there. I quit my treatments because I was still shooting dope. I was shooting the methadone. I come off the methadone cold turkey after 3.5 years, laid in the bathroom floor for 3 days, having withdrawals. I started doing crystal meth. I started smoking it, I started shooting it. I was shooting cocaine. Crystal meth had destroyed my teeth. My husband was beating me in front of my child. I lost my home, my job, everything I had. My mother-in-law, ex-mother-in-law, got a testimony from Mark Mitchell, a graduate of Teen Challenge, and how the Lord had set him free of 12 years of drug addiction and filled him with love, joy, hope, and peace. And I broke. I said, I want that, but the enemy was still telling me that I was a failure, that God didn't want me. I was diseased over. For over 15 years, I was an addict. Well, I got invited to church one day just to go see my ex-husband in jail. To go to the visitation, I had to come to church to leave right after. And I was like, I'd been up for 2 weeks on meth. I didn't have any teeth because crystal meth destroyed my teeth. But I walked in that church with my leather jacket thinking I was bad. I was like, all right, I'll go. But as soon as I walked into that church, the pastor was preaching on the title, I Need Someone to Love Me. And I broke. I said, I need someone to love me. And he was preaching on the children of Israel being in bondage. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, I'm in bondage. He started preaching on the great I am and how the great I am parted the sea for the children of Israel. And I'm thinking, can the great I am part the sea for me? That day I made Jesus Christ Lord of my life. Hey. I still struggle with drug addiction. The enemy was on me hard, saying I was a failure, I wasn't going to make it. We had a revival come up at my church, lasted 3.5 weeks. I got invited back, even though I messed up. I got invited back. As I went to the revival, I saw everybody excited. They was praising the Lord, and I was sitting there depressed and bound. I was like, I want that. I want what they have. And I remember the pastor that was preaching came up to me, and he said, you're bound, aren't you? I said, yes, I am. He said, you're bound by your health, aren't you? I said, yes, I am. He said, do you want to be free? I said, yes, I do. He said, say it again. Do you want to be free? I said, I want to be free. He said, stand up. Repeat after me in John chapter 8, verse 36. Therefore, if the Son sets you free, you're free indeed. At that moment, I felt the power of God, and I have been clean for 11.5 years. Hepatitis C. I had the documentations. I went back to the doctor and I said, I gotta know what I gotta know. And I told them my story. They tried to say, well, maybe you need to start your treatments over. Maybe God led you here. And I was like, no, that's not the God that I serve. Amen. And when I got the blood work back, everything straight up and down. Nothing high, nothing low. Mark has only given me 5 minutes to save one time so we can eat. And that's why God's had me written a book, Thorn to Rose. When the enemy told me I was a failure, God said through me, anything is possible. Yes. I felt like Noah building the ark through this book, but it's a little bit more of my testimony and the journey, that how God has called me, how I got involved with Mark Mitchell. I've been involved with the ministry for 11.5 years. I think I was one of his first students when he came to Bristol. And I started teaching the classes, and I now go into Sullivan County and teach the classes with them. Amen.